Hey, what's going on, guys? It's your boy NerdModeOn, and I'll be doing a gameplay commentary over some Call of Duty Black Ops 2. I'll be playing with a few friends, playing Nuketown, playing Hardpoint, and I'll be using the Scar H with that beautiful diamond camo, because it just adds to the, viewing pleasure. With that in mind, guys, the commentary will be centralized around a couple of topics related to the Xbox One, and if you guys remember, a couple of weeks back, I did make a video where I discussed and I talked more or less about the Xbox One always online policy. I know that's something that's been dwindling on a lot of people, consumers and gamers, and overall their presentation at E3 and overall just anything to do with the Xbox on the Microsoft standpoint has not been too appealing to a lot of people. It's definitely, I guess in a sense, quote-unquote, pissed off a lot of people, and there's good reason for that. I mean, there's a lot of things that people don't enjoy, like DRM and the used game policy that they put in place, but on the official site of the Xbox One, or the Xbox main site, they did talk mainly about how they are going to be terminating a few of those policies. A couple of things that people will jump to conclusion to are pretty standard, DRM and Xbox One's used game policy, and it looks like they are actually going to be disabling that from the existing project. It looks like from the viewer retention and the ability that people really tuned into the E3 presentation, and overall social media just doing what social media does the best, is, putting up a good argument. It looks like they're going to be terminating those from the finalized project of the Xbox One. Now, in greater detail, I will be talking about those, but to jump right onto it, guys, I'm going to talk about DRM, or the Always Online policy. So, they're going to be getting rid of that. Many of you guys knew that you were going to have to sign on to the online service, or it's going to check your existing connection every 24 hours. Most of you guys play online games, and that wouldn't be a huge, big problem, but not everybody likes to always be checked on. We don't always like to have our, privacy invaded. And, of course, there's good reason for that, but at the exact same expense, there was benefits that Always Online was going to issue to the online community. It was going to stop piracy, it was going to hopefully improve the online experience, it was going to check for updates and patches, which is good. That's actually a pretty cool thing. But considering that the online experience or the internet is not stable by any means necessary, that's a huge problem. That poses, the ability for you to constantly be getting kicked offline. If you're not somebody that has Fios or Google Internet or, even Charter, the maximum capacity for wattage, that's probably not very good. Or if you're also in a country that isn't very stable, you're constantly living neck and neck next to your neighbor and you're within inches and there's people above you and below you and all that stuff, like in a bigger city known as New York, or even overseas in some of the countries that are not very clean and stuff like that. That's a big deal. That's a huge problem that it poses, and to be honest with you guys, I can see why they terminated that, but I can also see why the community and the consumers really banded together on social media to attack Microsoft as hard as they could and say, hey, we're not going to buy your product if you're going to issue this bullshit. And that's for good reason. I mean, as a consumer, you have the ability to do this, and that's what we should be doing about more products, but we don't. We only do it for stuff that really only affects, one of us or a few of us, or maybe even a large amount, considering that the consoles are kind of a big deal, especially when they release only every 7 to 10 years or somewhere within that ballpark. So overall, what I'm trying to say is that the Always Online policy, DRM, is going to be disabled on the final Xbox One project. This also poses a huge threat to PlayStation or the Sony side of it, because that's kind of what they were expecting. They weren't expecting Microsoft to come out of the closet and be like, hey, we were just joking about that. We're not going to have that in the final project. That's kind of why everybody was banding together to go to Sony or the PlayStation 4, because it had the advantage. They were all for the consumer day one, and I'm hoping that people will look at that and go, hey, only because E3 saved your ass, Microsoft, that's the only reason we're giving you a second chance. Now, I'm not for either console. Both of you guys know, or all of you guys know, that I am getting both consoles on release, so I really wasn't in the problem area. I didn't really care which was the better or the worst, because I'm going to have the luxury of both. But I could see how people would not, enjoy having that problem, and that's definitely a very viable option to, uphold within your mindset. To jump into the second topic, guys, Xbox One is also going to be disabling their policy on the used game fiasco. As many of you guys know, they were trying to make the consumer pay for a second issue copy, which, they would have a fee on it. So let's say your friend bought the game for full price, and then he's like, hey, Timmy, you want to borrow my, Battlefield 4 copy? And you were like, oh, hell yeah, I'll give it a try. I'll see if I like it before I buy it or anything like that. Or maybe he just didn't want it anymore. Well, they were going to make you pay an online fee because they wanted to maximize on the profits. Now, for me personally, I buy all my games, and I usually never, rent them out to people or share them or anything like that, because I don't see a huge benefit, and I'm also very skeptical on people using my products in the first place. Not everybody is as, nice as they would like to be with their own stuff, so I usually don't like to lend out my stuff. But that's me. I also don't buy used games anymore because it's kind of a scam in a lot of aspects if you're selling to the company. If you're buying, of course, you're getting a pretty good deal. Depends on the product, of course. Now, with that in mind, guys, they're actually going to be disabling that, so if you want to give your game to whoever, it doesn't look like they'll have to pay an online fee anymore, so it's going to be exactly like the Xbox 360, which is good. I think a lot of people will really rally behind that. Hopefully it'll put, I guess, both consoles in a neutrality zone, so there is no huge advantage on one side and then a huge negative on the other. I mean, I know the PlayStation had flaws. They were not perfect. Believe it or not, there was some issues with privacy and just the gaming market or the online experience for the PlayStation, but it wasn't talked about because the Microsoft kind of pissed a lot of people off, and the stuff that was wrong with the PlayStation was being overlooked. Again, I'm buying both consoles. I'm not a fanboy for either. I've played both of them on the existing platforms that are currently available, and I liked both of them. But there was a huge advantage that PlayStation was taking advantage of, and they were probably going to outsell the Xbox by a huge margin. But Microsoft has fixed a couple other policies, and it looks like both of them are going to be existing or similar to the PlayStation side of it. Also, the used game thing, to jump right back on that, there is a cool feature that they're going to be adding. It's about time they do this. They're about probably 7 years late on this. They should have done this with the existing beginning of the consoles, the current gen. You'll actually be able to buy your game on day one. So let's say you want to pre-order Battlefield 4, and let's say the 720 comes out, or I'm sorry, the Xbox One comes out on the day of Battlefield 4, or any title. I mean, we'll use Black Flag, that's better because that's in December. You'll actually be able to buy it on the online store on day one at midnight. That's finally something that they did right. They should have done that with the existing consoles. There's no excuse to why their marketplace was a joke. Sony has the exact same thing. The PlayStation 3 has a terrible marketplace as well. As far as I know, when I was over there a couple of years ago, you couldn't buy games day one over there. And if you did, they never went down in price. They stayed at $60 for years after. I know if I go on there and buy a game now, SOCOM, for example, that game is almost retailed at full price, close to. Especially when I was over there a few years ago, because I sold it and then I rebought it, but I rebought it as a used copy. It would be nice to see them do stuff like Steam so they actually benefit the community, they give back to developers, they make better games, and overall everything just works together. But it looks like you'll be able to buy your game on the Xbox One marketplace on day one, and hopefully you won't have to stand in line with a bunch of other people that just smell funny and all that funny stuff. But overall, I look forward to seeing how the console war will continue, but I feel like the actual competition for both sides is a little bit more neutral now, and it'll be interesting to see where people go. But anyway, guys, this has been NMO, and I'll be signing off, and I'll see you guys in the next installment. Peace.